Hey everyone, hope everybody's doing well. Happy Monday, everybody. Hello, everyone on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. We have got a great topic for you all today. It's Monday, and it's the second Monday of the month, and we are coming in strong with this idea that the longer that you are single is the harder it is for you to receive a man. Yes, and I know some people are going to say, it's not true, Rachel, it's not true. And I'm going to show you how true it is. And if you're honest with yourself, you know how true this is for you also. Okay, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, you get to see my slides as well. So come on over to YouTube and Facebook for a better experience. But hi, TikTok, and hello to those who are on Instagram. So good to see you guys here. Do say hello as you come on in. Do say hello as you come on in. It is a wonderful day and an even better month and even better week. And we're excited about what is going to be happening over the next few weeks and months and the rest of the year, honestly. But anyway, let me get into today's topic. And I think, let me see. You should be able to see the slide over on YouTube. It says the longer you stay single, the harder it becomes to get married, or the harder it is for you to receive a man. And we're going to talk about why that is. And if you recognize yourself in any of what we're saying today, then we're also going to talk about how you can shift that and how you can make those changes as well. All right, so let's jump straight into this. I want to get into this topic. So the longer you stay, the harder it is. The longer you stay single, the harder it is for you to receive a man. And we're going to talk about why that is and how we can actively change that in our lives. So what we're talking about today is something that I've not really heard most Christians in this space or relationship coaches talk about this very often, because the longer you stay single, it is you know what it's like. You actually get used to your life. You get used to how you are. You get used to having no one in your house. You get used to not having to answer to anyone. You get used to so many things. And we're going to talk about why that is and if we can shift that. Okay. So the thing is about this is that your worth doesn't decrease. So let's just break that lie first of all. Your worth does not decrease, and God does not change his mind about your future. Because sometimes there is this idea that, oh, if I stay single or if this happens, it means that God has changed his mind. No, God hasn't changed his mind. So let's just nip that in the bud right now. The other thing that you need to understand is that you change, right? You grow, you change, you evolve, you develop different practices and so on. And your habits change, your nervous system changes, and your standards for what's comfortable begin to change. And I don't know why we're not seeing this spoken about more in the church, but what you'll probably hear is a lot of supernatural answers like pray more, or seek the Lord more, or maybe you should fast more, and things like that. But those things are not the answer. All right. And sometimes people say you should fast longer, trusting God, trust God's timing. Or maybe you're in your single season. How many people have heard that before? That, oh, you're just in your single season. If you just wait on the Lord and be of good courage, that man is going to come jumping through the window. And whilst these things may be true, they're probably not what's going on here. They're probably not what's going on here. But they're not telling you that while you're waiting, you're also adapting, right? You're becoming more independent. You're becoming more self-sufficient. You're more structured around your own rhythms, especially because there's no one to answer to. And especially if you don't have any children, it's like you have your own schedule. You can do whatever you want, and you become more structured around your own rhythms. And every single year, the gap between where you are and what you want and the covenant that you are wanting to bring into your life actually becomes wider. So today, I don't want to scare you. The whole idea of this conversation is not to scare you, but it's actually to wake you up and to see where in my life could I make some shifts, a few changes, amend a couple of things, and really show up best so that when the man or the men that approach me start to approach you, you'll be able to know what to do. Okay. And so almost every single woman I know that follows me or is in our, spaces, you're following the Lord. You're genuinely want to be with a godly, established man who is generous, and you know that you don't want to just keep waiting without preparing. And here's the other thing about it, because when you wait and you don't prepare, you are actually just being passive when you actually should be preparing for whatever it is that you are asking the Lord to bring you. Are you making room? Now, I'm not going to preach. I'm not going to preach. I preached yesterday. You should definitely go ahead and check that out on YouTube. But I want you to just stay with me for a few moments, because what I want to share with you today could be the thing that actually changes everything and how you're able to respond and what you're able to receive as well. And so I don't want to take it for granted that everybody knows who I am or you've met me before, but my name is Rachel-Yvonne McIntosh, and I am the Godly Femininity Theologian. And one of the things that I do, amongst like 1,000 other things, is to help Christian women be pursued by godly, established men by reclaiming their godly femininity so that you're seen, desired, and provided for. And today, we are going deep on this topic today. And by the end of what we're going to talk about today, you're going to understand three things. All right. I'm a preacher and a teacher, so I'm going to be quite clear about what we're talking about today. You're going to understand three things. Number one is why singleness over time rewires you away from readiness for covenant, and the specific ways it shows up where you don't even always recognize it in yourself. Okay. That's the first thing we're going to cover. The second thing we're going to cover is the difference between a woman who is waiting for a husband and a woman who is becoming a wife, because they are not the same woman. And some of you are just waiting and wishing and praying, but you're not actually becoming her in that moment. The third thing we're going to talk about today is what God is actually asking of you in this season. And it's really that not more patience, because sometimes we're like, God, make me more patient. Father, maybe I'm not patient. Holy Spirit, let the fruit of the Spirit be evident in my life. We want to show up more in the essence that God has created us for, but we are going to be going there in those three areas. And I would love to get some engagement on this live. So please do drop some fire emojis if you're here with me. Even if you're watching the replay on YouTube, definitely drop those fires in the chat, so I know I've got some people with me. I've got some, support here, got some love here. So drop some fire emojis in the chat for me. And while I'm looking for you guys for your responses, I want to say this to you, that I want to talk to you of a story of a woman, one of the women that I've worked with in my programs. And she's absolutely brilliant. She's beautiful. She is faithful to God, right? She is what you would call a good woman. And she had been single for about 10 years. 10 years, like that's quite a long time. And the reason was that it wasn't because, well, I'll talk about the good things that, that showed up, and we kind of like were able to look at those things. She's anointed, she's powerful in ministry. She was attractive, so men always noticed her. It wasn't like she was unattractive, very attractive woman that had been single for 10 years. And the issue that we found upon like asking questions and having conversations with her about what was going on, what I found was that every time a man tried to get close to her, something in her would close off. And it wasn't like there was any drama about it. She would just be closed. It was like he was interrupting something. And she always said it to me exactly like this, that Rachel, whenever he started making plans for us, I felt annoyed, like he was interrupting my progress, like he was interrupting me. And he was interrupting something. He was interrupting 10 years of her rhythm, 10 years of her life being built around her own preferences, her own schedule, and her own rhythm of rest, decision-making, and emotional processing. And so her single life had become so refined and so ordered And so hers, that the presence of this man felt like an intrusion, and it did not feel like a gift. So what I need you to understand is that this actually happens more often than many of you want to admit. And if you're going to be honest and say, that's me, definitely go ahead and type that's me in the comments. Or if you're a gentleman watching this and you've noticed that as well with some of the women you've interacted with, you can say, yep, I've seen it before. Okay. And when you are single, singleness over time kind of like becomes like a river, right? That starts to carve its own path so deeply that redirecting is going to require more than you just desiring things to change. So that means, yep, see, I'm seeing you say that. That's me. Exactly. And I know what this is like. And there is a danger to this, and we're going to unwrap it a little bit. And you've set yourself up in this, and you can't just introduce a new dynamic and expect it to flow naturally. This will take intentional reprogramming and intentional reformation. And this is what I talk about, obviously, if you've been following me for, whether you've been following me just today or been following me for years, you know that I'm quite consistent with this messaging. You have to understand that I really believe that this is a time that God is inviting you into realizing this shift and to seeing if you can transform it. So, and I want to know if you can also recognize this in yourself. You have adapted your life. So you make every decision alone, and you become so good at making those decisions that the idea of consulting someone else feels kind of like a waste of time. Like, I know me, I can do it by myself. I don't need any help. You also have a routine that works. And so you don't need anybody to come into this routine and change up the program, right? And if it disrupts your program, the first feeling that you feel is irritation. And you don't want to be flexible because there's a lot of programming out there that says that you don't need to reprogram your life, blah, 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 blah. And yes, you have high standards, which is right and godly, but sometimes those standards can grow from character requirements to comfort requirements. And sometimes you're looking and saying that you want a godly man, but you also want this godly man to fit into the life that you've already built. Think about that for a second. You are asking for a godly man, an established leader, but you want him to fit into the life you've built. How does that sound? Okay. So you're a generous woman, you give, but receiving is something you find uncomfortable. Like you're suspicious when someone gives you something. Like you always think there has to be a catch when a man wants to be generous towards you, when a man wants to offer something towards you. And you are suspicious and you always think there's a catch, like he has to want something in order for him to be generous towards you. And this is what I've come to understand about this. And even when I had this conversation with this lady that I had in my coaching program, is that this was something that I realized was a survival strategy, right? It was what she had had to do to survive. But a survival strategy and covenant preparation are not always the same thing. And when you realize that a man who wants to lead won't be able to find that space in that woman if you've already built every wall yourself. So I want you to think about this for a second. We're going to move a little bit forward in this conversation here. If you think about a guest room in a home, say like you have your own house and you have a guest room in the house, and when it's been vacant for, a while, it's ready, you got fresh sheets in there, you got clear surfaces and space for whenever someone's coming, right? But if you take that same guest room and say, oh, we're not having guests anymore, and it becomes a storage room, or it becomes like your prayer room or your office or something, a reading corner. Now, when a guest actually arrives, you're going to remind yourself, oh, it's a guest room. And now you have to move things out of there. You've got Your walking pad is in the guest room that was ready for a guest. Your gym equipment's in there. Your lighting setup is in there, because even though it was a guest room for a guest, you've now made it into an office or a studio. Now, I know what that's like, because I've had one of those in my house, where it's meant to be a guest room, ends up being an office, it ends up being where we record music, it ends up being all these other things, and then we put in these things on the bed. And so when someone actually has to stay, we're like, oh, let's recalibrate this room back into being a guest room. And that is what happens to a woman, your internal world, after years of being in singleness. The space that was meant to welcome your husband or your man or whatever has been repurposed, beautifully repurposed, and not like nothing's wrong with what you've done, but you've repurposed things. And so I'm a firm believer that you prepare before something arrives. I'm a strong believer in biblical manifestation. And every time you see in the Bible that people receive things, they did not let go. They did not let go to what they believed God had for them. They did not let go of the promises. And you must not let go. Don't listen to people that tell you, oh, just dream about it and then let it go. No, 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 not biblical. God doesn't operate like that, and neither should you. And so therefore, I believe that being in covenant requires you to renovate before he arrives and not after. For example, when you're in your say, like your schedule is for you, and it's all about you and where you need to be, and you put things in there, you say yes to things that are good for you, etc. But you're also single in your nervous system, how you operate. And what does that actually mean? It means that your body, your brain, and all of your emotional architecture have been recalibrated for solitude. You sleep alone, you rest alone, you process alone, you celebrate alone, you plan alone, because you've learned that I need to be dependent on me. You've learned that if nobody's going to shout for me, I've got to shout for myself. You've learned that you don't need any public approval, and none of those things are wrong. And you do become extraordinary, self-contained, which again, none of these things are bad, but it does make it harder for you to adjust when you are ready to date seriously. So when a man enters that ecosystem, he enters your orbit. Even if he's the right man, even when he's a godly, established, generous man, ticks all the boxes, every part of you that has been established and formed for solitude treats his presence like a variable to be managed, because you're thinking, you're not open to have a covering that you're meant to be receiving. And this is where I hear women say things like this: I want a husband, but I also love my independence. I want someone, but I also need my space. I want to be loved, but I don't want to be smothered. And I understand that these can appear to be preferences, but at the same time, what you're saying is, I understand that your nervous system is telling you that you've been alone so long that proximity itself can feel like it's a threatening activity to what you've created. And I really believe that Holy Spirit wants to heal this, but you do have to name it first. And so where I want to draw a distinction here, as we kind of like lean towards the final section of what we're talking about here today, is that there is a distinction that I believe will change how you see this entire season. Because maybe this is you, all right? So I don't know if this is you, and you can let me know. People in church talk about waiting for a husband. They talk about praying for him, believing for him, declaring that he's coming. And you might even have the idea of the qualities of the man on your vision board. You've written it on your journal. You're faithful. You're being expectant. And then there's another woman who is becoming a wife. She's also praying and believing, but she's doing something else. She's actively waiting. She's learning to receive. So when someone opens the door for her, she's not saying, oh, I got it. When someone asks her if they can help her carry her shopping, she's not saying, oh, I can do it by myself. She's saying yes. When she's in the airport, let me tell you something. I have not had to put my suitcase in the when you get on the plane, oh my gosh, the overhead cabin. I have not had to do that myself for a very long time. I actually don't remember the last time I had to stretch up there and do that. You know why? Because there's always someone around that is like, hey, can I help you with that? Or, oh, you shouldn't be carrying that. Let me do that for you. And you know what I say? Thank you so much. And I move out the way, let them get the case, and I let them put it up there. So, and I know you might feel like, well, that's a bit much, Rachel, or that's a small thing, but it's not a small thing, because it means that my receptivity to assistance and to being taken care of is a part of my daily normal life, to the point where I can be at church and I can start to move a chair, and one of the guys at my church will be like, oh no, Rachel doesn't move chairs, and they'll move it for me, even though, like, obviously I can move chairs, like, it's nothing wrong with me. But they've come to this realization of assistance and helping and so on and so forth. Here is the thing that I want you to kind of get here, is also a woman who is becoming a wife or is a wife is someone who has learned to soften in all the places that over time she's been hardened in those areas. So learning how to practice being present, being settled, being present again. I use that word a lot. Present, being magnetic, not performing capability. Because some of you are so adamant about letting everybody know you can do it. Like, you're not going to break me down. I can do it. I can do it. I don't need your help. That you don't realize that what you've done is you have blocked yourself off from receiving. And so that type of woman who is preparing in that way is actually letting God renovate the room before the guests arrive. The waiting woman, so if you see yourself as the waiting woman, yes, you trust God's timing, but the becoming woman cooperates with God's preparation. And which woman are you, is the question. Which woman are you? Are you the waiting, or you are the being, becoming woman? In Zephaniah 3 verse 17, it says this in the Passion Translation. It says this: he will take delight in you with gladness, and with his love, he will calm your fears, and he will rejoice over you with joyful songs. Therefore, I want you to understand this revelation, that God is preparing you to be able to receive what he has already prepared. And that preparation requires your participation. He's not withholding a man from you. He's not bypassing you and looking at everybody else. He wants you to be able to receive what he has already prepared. So the question is never just, is he coming? The question is, are you ready to receive him when he does? If a man was to show up on your doorstep, like literally on your doorstep, say Amazon guy, you know, that's his like second or third job or something, like you see him and he sees you and he's like, wow. And something in him says that he should approach you, whatever. Like literally, if a man just arrived at your doorstep, would you be ready? Would you be ready? If you went to the supermarket tomorrow, you know, you're in Target getting your things and you bump into this guy, would you be positioned and ready to receive him? You're at a church conference, or, you know, your church has a fellowship with another church, and then a gentleman's there and he sees you from across the room, and then before the end of the service, he finds a way, honey. One thing about a man that wants something, he's going to find a way to make sure that he sees you, that you see him. And so he comes over to you and then he says something to you. Would you be ready for how quick things could move? And that's that is something that you need to consider. So what does it mean really to really be this type of woman? So here it is. The first thing is practice receiving. I shared with you a few ideas about receiving. I'm very good at receiving. You practice receiving by starting small. When someone compliments you, you receive it. You don't deflect or minimize it. It's okay for someone to tell you that you did a good job. Like, okay, here's a pet peeve of mine, is you do something, say you're in church and you do something really good. Like, you know, you sang well, or you preached, or you gave a poem, and they say to you, wow, Rachel, you know, Sarah, you did a really good job. And your response is, oh, it wasn't me, it was God. Like, it's okay. It's okay. We don't need to do that. You can just say thank you. You literally just have to say 2 words. Thank you. Very simple. Don't over spiritualize it. Don't make it so deep and weird. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And that's it. You don't have to say to them, oh, I like your shoes too, or you did a good job too. Like, especially if it's not genuine, just don't bother. Say thank you. When someone holds a door open for you, receive it. Don't rush to prove that you could have done it yourself. When that cart is going around at the airport, if I'm traveling by myself, this is obviously if I'm with my dad, he usually, has my bags, whatever. But if I'm traveling by myself, then when that carousel is going around, I'm just looking, I'm standing there, I'm looking, it's going around. And usually people who have been on a flight with me will know what my case is, because my cases are usually quite unique, like distinctive looking. And when you see me dressed, you'll know those are my suitcases. So typically that also helps. So as the case is going around on the carousel, is usually one of the first ones to come out, then someone will jump in and get the suitcase for me. I will laugh about it, and they will say something like, and this is, I'm only saying it like this because this is typically what happens. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, this happens pretty much every single time. They'll be like, oh, I knew these were your suitcases. And then I'll laugh and, ha ha ha, he, hey, we'll just continue on having a chit chat. Sometimes it leads somewhere, sometimes it doesn't. But I never once think they want something because they said something about my suitcase or because they helped me with my suitcase. So you got to learn that when a man offers to help you, receive it. Don't have to over explain or say that you're fine. And every time you receive gracefully, you are retraining yourself to be able to accept in general. Doesn't mean that you don't know what to do. We know you know what to do. Clearly, you got here by being amazing. So there's no shadow of a doubt that you are a powerful woman. But letting that man carry your bag will not take away from you your degrees, how many houses you own. Like, it won't change any of those things. It doesn't make you less. The second thing is, audit your life for accessibility. Is there room in your calendar for a relationship? Is there room in your emotional bandwidth? Is there room in your physical space? A man won't be able to pursue where there is no vacancy. And it means that you make room practically, emotionally, spiritually before he arrives. And then number 3, let Holy Spirit show you where you are closed and why. Because there might be reasons why. And we do need to get to the root of those things so that when you're with someone, all of your triggers are not being like alerted because you haven't healed from whatever crap you went through before. You cannot make the man you're with or the men that you entertain pay for what other men did or didn't do. We see this so often. And if you're honest, maybe you've done that before as well. Ask the Lord. It's an invitation. You ask him, where did I close? Where did I decide that it was safer to need nothing? Where did I decide to exchange softness for survival? Now, if you have my book, I don't know where my books are. They're like over there somewhere. But if you have any of my books, I talk about this in my books. I talk about this in my book, Sacred Rest. I also talk about it in my book, The Desired Woman, and also The Supernatural Woman. You can get all of those books if you check my links in my bio or send me a message and I will send you direct links to get them. And then when you realize that you've done those things, then let God in. That is where the real work is going to happen, because honestly, most of you don't need me to give you strategy of how to meet a man, how to attract a man, what to do when. Like, you don't even need that. Most of the time, all you need is to tweak a couple of things. And it's more about surrender than anything else. And I want to close with this, that there's no such thing as being too independent or too set in your ways to be loved, or for your way, or for you to accept a man into your space. And it also doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that you're behind. Like, this is not what this is. But it also means that you are not exempt from the truth of what I've shared here today, that becoming does require your cooperation. Yeah. That the woman who receives a godly, established, generous man is not only going to be the kind of woman who just prays. Praying hard enough is not really going to change things when you're not actively doing anything about it. All right. It also means that you must be the kind of woman who asks Holy Spirit to prepare her to hold what she's been asking for. I was talking to a friend of mine about capacity. We're always talking about capacity for whatever reason. And this is something that we were discussing as well, about do women really have the capacity for what they're asking for? Are you able to hold the space that you're asking for? Or will you be irritated and just get annoyed with different things? And that is what we are asking here today. And that's really what a lot of my work is about. My work is about, in this, in this arena of being, a godly femininity theologian, is in helping women to really be in a position where you are pursued by generous, godly men. And I say men because we have to get out this concept of the one. Like, anyway, that's a whole other topic we'll talk about another day. However, one of the things that I love to help you with is to become the kind of woman who naturally and effortlessly begins to divinely draw the right one. You begin to divinely have these circumstances, these scenarios. You receive these DMs when you're out and about. People say certain things, and you become. And the thing is, it's never about. In everything I say, it's never be more like Rachel or be more like that person. Like when people are like, tell us what Sierra prayed so we can pray the same thing. It's not about that. It's actually learning yourself so you can be who God has created you to be. So I don't give you like tips on how to trick someone and how to trick him into loving you and things like that. But it's about you being the one that you were always created to be. And I want to make this declaration over you as well, because when I'm doing this work, it is a mixture of allowing the Lord to lead in this conversation and understand that you were not made for perpetual singleness. And you might feel like you are because you're like, oh, I've given up now. You don't have to give up unless you know for sure that God has said that you're going to be living a life of celibacy and you're going to be, the life of singleness is what you're going to have forever. If you're clear on that, sure, I'm not here to convince you. But for the vast majority of you, you were actually made for covenant. And preparing for that and speaking about that is something that I love to do. And so the doors to the Desired Woman membership are open. And my promise in the Desired Woman membership is every single week we talk about these topics. It is about being a Holy Spirit-led woman who is done waiting. Like, again, we are not here waiting. We are actively becoming. I tell personal stories, much more detailed than what you get in these public lives, that's for sure. And also, the other thing that you need to understand is that my main promise is within 90 days, you will be pursued by at least 2 godly, established, generous men. Is a promise, because you know what? It does not take that long for you to switch things up. First of all, you're already beautiful, you're already accomplished. Like, none of those things are your problem. It's more of a case of what we've been talking about today. That if you've been single for a very long time, my client that I was telling you about, I like to call the clients my daughters, but like one of my spiritual daughters that I was working with, she'd been single for 10 years and she kind of given up. But when I went deeper as to the conversation she was having with men, interactions, I realized that there was a block there because she had been single so long that she wasn't able to receive. Now that is something that we can absolutely shift. All right. And so if you're interested in joining us, the links are everywhere. If you're on TikTok, it's in my bio, or you can message me. If you're on Instagram, the link is right there too. If you're here on YouTube and Facebook, the link is right there as well. And as always, our replays will live over on my YouTube channel. And so you can definitely come over here and take a look and come and watch this anytime you want, so that you will be able to, get these lessons as well. So that's it from me. And so I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to TikTok and goodbye to Instagram And also, let's go ahead and end it here on YouTube and Facebook. And of course, because this lives on YouTube, feel free to type in the comments if you have a question, something you want me to follow up on or go deeper in, then definitely do that. I would love to do that. But if you are in my membership, you get first dibs at any questions and content and things like that. So God bless everyone, and I will see you all again soon. Bye-bye.